For me, I started when I was about 16 years old. I pulled with all my buddies, and then from there it was just entering tournaments, losing for a very long time, meeting the arm benders, and just kind of picking up pieces as I go. And I know it sounds kind of old, but it was like pre-Google. We had the Northeast message board, so we didn't have access like you guys do to training videos and questions and stuff, right? So the sport has really evolved, and we have a lot of knowledge from that 20 years of arm wrestling. And when I teach my students at practice, I really focus on the technique more than the actual training, because everybody wants to know the secret on how to get the best at arm wrestling, right? Well, there is no fucking secret. It's just about how bad you want it and training a lot harder than everybody else is what it really comes down to. It's about 10% genetics and 90% hard work. There is no secret, right? I push myself on a daily basis, whether it be on the practice table, whether it be in my gym, at a tournament. I'm always learning, always listening, and as soon as you can allow your brain to absorb information from other people is when you will become a better arm wrestler. Because it's very easy, as we all lift on a regular basis, to get stubborn and to not want to hear anybody else's information. But I'm telling you right now, when you hear a guy tell you you're doing something wrong, actually listen to him and try to apply that to the table. Because as we all know, in the amateurs or the novice, as you're working your way up, you go 0-2 quite a lot. If you get a win, it's like a victory, right? So just the goal in arm wrestling is don't so much look at like the dude on the most elite level and you're trying to catch him. Because arm wrestling is all about baby steps and asking your local pro at practice or at these seminars at a tournament on what you're doing wrong, grip up with him and go over how he trains and what he does and basically how he became so successful.
I'm Jordan from Utah. Been arm wrestling about 18 years, and I don't know what else I can really say that he didn't cover, but it's about having fun and just get comfortable and have fun arm wrestling. That's what it's about.
I'm Chance Shaw. I've been arm wrestling 6 years now. Luke pretty much covered it. I mean, the most important things is get with someone that knows what they're talking about, and don't be afraid to learn. It's definitely important to be humble. Everyone takes lessons. We all took lessons, except for Luke.
Hey, I lost a lot. Start with, does anybody have any like specific questions on what you want to get from this seminar? Or
what do you do off the table to get stronger on the table?
Okay. The easiest way I can explain it, and I'm going to rob a little bit of Todd Hutchings just because it's the easiest way to explain it. You are pushing your body past its limits on a regular basis to get stronger at arm wrestling. You are only as strong as the best arm wrestler in your practice squad. If you get used to feeling that specific pressure all the time and you don't ever pull anybody better or stronger, you are only going to be that level for as long as your career. I'm pushing myself past my limits, pain, whatever you want to call it. I'm constantly, that's my focus, on working harder than the guy next to me, right? So to answer your question, to get stronger at arm wrestling, it's not something that's just, there's no specific answer. Because obviously the hand, everybody wants to know how you get your hand stronger. That's like the #1 question everybody wants to know probably in this room. How do I get my hand stronger? Well, what I can tell you is the hand is not one movement. There are 15 different movements in the hand that make you that allows you to create the distance between yourself and your competitor. I am a counter arm wrestler. I do not pull where I'm comfortable. I pull where you're not comfortable, right? And that's scary because we get comfortable in a position where we have to get there in order to apply pressure. But if you watch John Brzenk and some of these elite level arm wrestlers, they counter. All they're doing is attacking their opponent's weakness. Okay, so
and you have to study the opponent or you're not going to know it. So if you go up against someone you've never seen before, how are you going to know what their weakness is?
Correct. I mean, when we go to a tournament and we arm wrestle somebody that we've never met before, that's just part of increasing your knowledge of your on the table, right? Your, what do they call that? Table
awareness. IQ.
IQs,
So
right?
do you watch them with the person who pulled before you, or you just forget about that and focus on that moment?
For sure.
You got to watch the matches before so that you know if they're hooking or top rolling, or their angles they use, or what they're going to try to do, so that you know how to counter. Like if you're the first match of the day, it's just kind of feeling the pressures to see where they're going and what they're doing, and maybe false start a couple times to see what they're going to do to what you do, and then you can go from there.
But like, I'm curious, like, how often do you train off the table in the gym? Like, what do you, like, is it every day maxed out, or what do you guys do?
Go ahead, Chance.
So I approach arm wrestling a little bit different than most people. So my training to get stronger on the table is just general strength. So I believe if you're stronger and you know how to apply your strength, then you will be better. I don't do any type of handle work. I don't do any arm wrestling specific work. I think that it doesn't matter if you're good with a handle if you don't know how to apply it on the table. So the biggest thing for me is I'm constantly studying. I'm watching videos of my opponents. I'm seeing what they're doing. I'm seeing what adjustments they make and what their opponent does when they make those adjustments. So I'm trying to figure out how to use everything that I have rather than focusing on getting
And do you
stronger.
lift every day to get stronger? Or like,
So just recently, I've started in the last couple months, Monday through Thursday in the gym. It's just general gym strength. It's not anything arm wrestling specific. So I don't have any secrets.
Yeah, you're going to get a different answer from every arm wrestler.
I don't spend hardly any time in the gym at all. I train on the table twice a week with a couple different groups in my area, and then in between, I just focus on recovery and blood flow and getting everything healthy again so that I can train on the table.
just doing light weights and
bands and
stuff.
Where my elbow is so banged up, I can't practice anymore at all. Like, just now within the last couple of months from doing JM presses, I'm sure you guys all know what JM presses are. If you don't, Google it. But it basically healed my elbow to the point where I can start actually pulling on the table again, right? So my experience with, I'm primarily in the gym. That's all I do. Heavy pronation, heavy cupping, heavy everything, right? So these guys we're very similar as far as where we are in our classes, but we all have something different. And that's back to what I was telling you. You kind of need to take a little bits and pieces of our knowledge and use them for yourself, because there is no answer to how to become an elite arm wrestler. Plain and simple.
You said, so are you training like daily or the majority of the days during the week or every day?
Usually for me, it's 5 days a week, just because sometimes I pull on the weekend, once a month usually. But I have, like, back to Todd Hutchins' thing I was going to mention, West Side Barbell is something that I've incorporated. It's similar to what I did before, other than I just added a few things. Can you just raise your hands if you know what West Side Barbell is? Okay, so primarily everybody in here. Basically, and please tell me if I'm wrong or add to what I'm about to say, but it's a pyramid, right? We do isometrics, we do a max day, we do a volume day, and we do a speed day, right? Because arm wrestling, you have to be good everywhere. People say I'm fast, right? And it's like an insult. I hate that shit. Oh, light knee, going again because he's fast. I fucking hate that. The difference between hitting hard and being fast are completely different. You can be a fast switch arm wrestler and be that guy, but you don't have the hand to back up the hit. Being explosive in your hit and applying that power is not the same thing as just being fast. And I'm going to bring this up. This is one of my famous things I always say in my seminars, is 100 pounds is not a lot of weight until you drop it from 3 feet off the ground, right? Every elite arm wrestler that I know can curl over 100 pounds. It's just like the thing to do. Like, everybody wants to curl that 100-pound dumbbell. If you drop that 100 pounds from 3 feet, I don't know math, but I don't know how many pounds per square inch that 100 pounds can distribute from 3 feet. So what I'm saying is, if I can curl 100 pounds and I load up and fire everything I have, right, I'm probably distributing more power than that 100 pounds. And now you have to catch that 100 pounds, where holding it's easy, catching it is not easy. You get what I'm saying? So it's just, go ahead.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah, because these guys don't train in the gym at all. It's just all arm wrestling on the table.
Oh no. So you say that like you can't really practice anymore, but you do heavy lifts.
Yeah.
Like what's the difference like between like elbow pain? Because I feel like I'm reversed. Like when I lift heavy, I hurt, but in practice, I don't.
So I injured my inner elbow right in my joint. So like I don't have the ability to apply any side pressure without like excruciating pain. But what I do is I work very heavy pronation, heavy cupping, just basic arm wrestling movements, but very heavy. Like I'm constantly putting an uncomfortable amount of weight on my arm, hand, and wrist almost every single week. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So Jordan, I don't want to offend you, but I just find your arms are huge, man. I find it hard to believe you don't work out.
I don't.
Fans cannot get my arms that big.
Yeah, I don't that often. Like,
What do you do for work?
I finish concrete.
Oh, okay. You don't lift like. We'll just answer the
A
question.
lot of pulling is size from that too, I guess, right?
So, Luke, you said you put your hand and wrist, push it to a little long. How do you avoid injury during the training, on your wrist specifically? Because my usual problem area is my wrist.
So it's always sore, and I don't know if it's carpal tunnel or tendonitis, or just like my tendons are sore. You just kind of have to feel out your body. Vosgin told me this one time, where I hurt my wrist, and he's like, "You can still move it; it is not injured." You know? And I was like, "He's right," you know. So it's just part of arm wrestling. You have to get used to pain all the time.
You'll be uncomfortable all the time.
all the fucking time. Exactly.
And then it's a matter of resting enough to not be in pain for the tournament.
Right.
But your training, you should be uncomfortable a majority of the time, and then you rest long enough to feel good to compete.
How much do you rest before a tournament?
Did you rest today?
10 days.
No, you didn't rest for this tournament?
No, I had a tournament last Saturday.
Damn.
And he still did good.
I'm usually 9 to 10.
Yeah, normally it's
From
10
all
days.
gym, completely. I didn't touch the weight since 9 or 10 days ago.
I don't do anything for 1 week. And I take the week before off from pulling completely. And then I taper off from the gym.
Any more questions? You want to talk about training, diet, weight,
I want to
loss?
talk about the 5 seconds before the go when you were pulling Daryl and when you pulled Matt. What were you doing? Because you made them look really uncomfortable. So I couldn't tell what you were doing.
This is all from studying John Brzezinski. High hooking is the most dominant position that you can possibly be in all of arm wrestling. What it does is it puts you in a neutral position where you can counter either the top roll or the hook anytime you want. It's basically baiting your opponent into having to attack your arm and you using their momentum wherever they're going. Like when I pulled Scott Wynn, he was trying to top roll me, and instead of trying to match the top roll, I countered his move and attacked his weakness by turning his wrist over onto his bicep. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with Daryl, I baited Daryl into basically coming towards me, right? And what that does is when you're using an opponent's momentum, as they're coming forward and you're coming back, my hand, see this position? The strongest spot for me, I'm a top roller, the most comfortable spot for me is right there. Does that make any sense?
No.
Doesn't make any sense, because right there, a high hook is not here, it's not here, it's, you turn your hand towards you, it's right there. From this position, you want to come up here for a second? So I can show you, so you understand it? From a high hook position, right there, I want you to try to go outside a little bit. I have you blocked. Now try to come inside. I have you blocked. Right? So I'm feeling out my opponent. I'm baiting you into coming either towards me or away from me with that high hook. And what it does is it allows me to protect my hand. Because back in the day, I was all top, low hand top roll. My only move was I wanted to go here, come out the back of a hooker, right? He's trying to come towards me and I come all back here. What happened is, with the strap, you're one-dimensional. If you don't take his wrist and he flattens you out, the match is over. Yeah. With the high hook, it allows you to distribute the power slide any direction you want to go that they're not. So Daryl came into me, he came and tried to hook me, so I went like this. I hook. And at this point, he's trying to turn me in, and I'm just turning him out. Then he tried to top roll me. Same exact position. He tried to top roll me, block. Same movement. And when you get that movement down, it'll allow you to hit. And that's where it gets crazy. Because when I hit hard and I rise, I don't have to worry about losing position because I'm in the same spot every time. I'm not here and I'm not diving inside. I'm just hitting right there towards the back of the pad, and all my pressure is going to my left shoulder.
So then, Luke, if you're in that high hook position focusing, are you focusing more on your opponent's top, like index or knuckle? Or because you're not going to be carving out on your pinky and you're not exactly top rolling either. So it's just the middle position going over your opponent's index knuckle right there for your high hook?
So I double cap. It's kind of like a bad habit, but you can go underneath your thumb depending on your opponent or over your thumb. It all just depends on what you feel on the table, but for me it's not so much my hand position as it is my wrists. So a referee will straighten you out, right, and which sucks when you're trying to do this move, but when you close, you are only focusing on here. You're not rolling one direction or the other.
You're allowing either way depending on what
you're just wrist crunching. That's all it is. It's a just straight wrist crunch, and then it's a block wherever the opponent wants to go.
What if they have better back pressure? Is it difficult to get into that position? I mean, if you think they have superior back pressure, it would be difficult. What kind of back pressure?
So,
if they're pulling back off the gun.
That's where like the hand comes. Like, see, I don't know how these guys train without working their hand, because like I can't get the same pressure on my hand at practice as I do in the gym, right? So, you guys want to touch on any of your hand strength?
My hand strength is through the strap. I don't really have a strong hand, but when you're really good at using the strap, you don't have to have that strong of a hand, in my opinion. It's about the wrist, but not so much the hand. Yeah. So how I counter back pressure is through the pressures I apply in the strap, because my back pressure is not that strong. Most of you guys probably have better back pressure than I do too. It's just about the pressure I apply in the strap. So that's how I get around.
You can counter back pressure with up pressure. Because as they're pulling back, if you can put more up, they're going to give you their whole hand and give you everything. So if they have more back, but you can match it with up by driving your elbow forward, then you can counter back pressure that way and still be in that same position by driving up.
When you're getting to the high hook, do you give a little in your wrist to get there? If somebody's back pressuring, you close your fingers, close your thumb, close your fingers, and there's a lot of pressure here. Do you give a little to get there, or are you just crunching so hard that you're overcoming it?
It depends on if they're a top roller or a hooker. It depends on, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'd have to show you on the table. So
when you pulled Scott, what did you do? Did you give a little to get to that? Because you had him right there.
So with Scott, I have to see the video again, but I'm fairly sure that I gripped him underneath my thumb, right? So these two fingers right here, it's uncomfortable. When you grip underneath your thumb, you have almost double the amount of control as you would on top of your thumb. So
I don't cap at all. When I cap, it forces me to just stay in. But if I'm under, I can go anywhere.
I always cap because I feel like when I cap, I can get more rising pressure and pronation. I don't care about control, so it's fine.
Yeah.
You don't always have to cap.
So the thumb muscle, right? Depending on your opponent and where they're going, the thumb pressure can be just as paralyzing as these bottom two fingers. Let me give you an example real quick. So the thumb is going to attack a certain part of his hand, right? So a lot of thumb pressure, I can only apply a certain amount with just my thumb, but I can increase it by a whole lot now that I squeeze with my whole hand, right? Right? So now, if you want to paralyze, I'll just give you guys a little trick. If you want to paralyze your opponent, when you grip around these are not NAL rules that we were used to today, but when you grip around your opponent and take some real estate on the back of their hand, and then straighten, now grip. You can't, right? You get what I'm saying? So there's these little tricks on how you apply pressure through your hand. It's not just like double capping or gripping under the thumb. It's about where you're grabbing around your opponent's wrist compared to what you're doing. Scott Wynn, I grip under my thumb around his wrist because I don't really want to fight Scott outside. I don't want to fight, I don't want to go to the strap. I just want to get it over with. And I already knew that his hook was weak, so all I basically had to do was grip around his hand when they said go, and still meet the top pressure, but control the back of the hand, and as soon as you turn it over, I mean, it's game over.
Everybody's trying to get everybody flat.
The goal?
You're trying to get everybody flat on their line, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Take their hand maybe.
the goal was to just turn somebody over flat.
So that answered pretty much 80% of my question, but I was wondering, like, if you compared that to Daryl, would it be different, or was it a similar approach? Or did you give another person to compare to today?
I mean, I didn't know anything about Daryl. I didn't even know what he looked like, to be honest. His Facebook picture's terrible, and I couldn't find any video. Like, I went into the super match completely blind. Like, I was like looking, I thought it was two different guys the first like 20 minutes. I had no idea, right? Daryl was like a really nice guy, but like my approach to pulling Daryl was to just allow him to come towards me. There wasn't, that's pretty much all I did. Was when you guys fight in this setup, you will learn that it's the worst thing you could ever do. The goal is to make your opponent feel as comfortable as possible so you don't have to fight. Like, the way you win tournaments is by conserving energy and being fast. Like, getting in the long matches is not the way to win tournaments. Like, you want to outsmart your opponent, not be stronger than them, right?
How do you get to be fast?
That's a you question.
Yeah. So, we're going to use a Travis Bagent. I was already fast, but I didn't hit hard until Travis figured it out. My loss to Sam Harris was like a blessing in disguise because it basically let me go back to the drawing board and try to understand. Like, Travis is like, hey, what are you doing? Right? Like motherfucker, like this. Like, stand up. Like, that's like Travis. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, like, look at your fucking feet. Look where you are on the table. I'm like trying to like pronate like this through Sam. Like, and he's just like right on top of my hand, like, thank you, right? So what it did was, talking to Travis, it allowed my feet to get comfortable. And arm wrestling is, the stance is just, I say this to everybody, it's an athletic stance. You hit baseballs, you shoot, you throw a football, everything is this athletic stance. So when I walk up to the table, I'm in an athletic stance. Knees are slightly bent, and it's about timing. So when I put my elbow on the table, and I set my hand, and he's comfortable. I like when they feel comfortable because I get into my spot, right? So we'll start with hitting hard. It's timing. Watch the referee's mouth is the first trick that you all need to figure out and learn. The referee's right here, and you have trouble timing the hit or being fast. You need to watch him because all referees have a pause where they go, "Don't move." Go, and you watch the mouth and the lungs, and you watch their energy right before go. It'll help you with your timing and being explosive, right? Also, what I learned after that loss was my rise, right? And what that basically does is it allows you to wind up, back to that 100-pound curl thing. It lets me wind up and time the hit. So when I hit, my knees, everything is transitioning, right, to the back of the pad, like I'm trying to punch somebody in the face, right? Right there. So my suggestion is to be loose up there. Everybody gets into this like solid as a rock. Like, I gotta be like, you gotta move. Like, watch Ron Columba. You guys know who that is. Ron's like this. Right? His shoulder's moving, he's limber the whole time, and he's watching the ref the whole time, he's limber. And he hits, right? So everything is moving. If you're stationary and you bury your elbow, you're never gonna figure out how to hit or be fast.
So is there a way to move the body while keeping that arm still, in that preset? Say you're in rep script and you gotta keep everything still. How are you able to say?
In a rep script, you can't.
So you
You can't move your body. No, from the hips up, you can't move in a rep script.
But you still be loose.
Yeah.
But I don't even think there's a ref script in this NAL or WAL.
Apparently the whole thing was a rep script.
It's all rep script.
Today was ref script. So I heard one of the referees say, okay, no movement. And like in even WAF, if it's not a ref script, I get a lot of like people saying that false start because it's like an illusion. What happens is I start moving before my hand makes contact with your hand. So it can be like, don't move, I rise, and I'm watching the ref, and it's like, go! So I have all this momentum moving before I make contact with my actual hand. So like, oh, I false started. Like, I didn't go, like the referee's like, you didn't false start. Like, my hand didn't move until go. But that's how you wind that spring up and explode through someone's hand. So, oh, it's so easy, right? Anybody can do it. Yeah. The same two questions I always get: speed and strength. Everybody wants to know the secret. It's just dedication. That's basically what it comes down to.
In the setup with something like that, it's kind of question for all three of you, since I haven't pulled all three of you. Are you guys setting up real light? You know, like we can barely feel y'all's grip, or is it more of like a medium where you're just getting your hand set kind of thing, or you know, the amateur real tight?
Mine's to a comfort level. Where my hand right here is where I'm comfortable. So no matter who's in my hand, I'm trying to get my hand to where I'm comfortable. And whether it's they have a big hand and I have to squeeze a little more to get where I want, or they have a small hand and it doesn't feel like I'm squeezing them at all. It's just where I'm comfortable and where I want to start is what I'm doing.
Do you try to match the person, or are they trying to match you more as well?
It's different.
It's a lot about what I'm feeling, but I don't. If someone likes hard loading, I won't load at all. I'll force them to dead load. Because clearly, if they're hard loading, that's what they're comfortable with. I'm going to take them, make them uncomfortable. But typically, if there's not a lot of load, it's just a moderate grip, just enough to get comfortable, like Jordan said. I'm not cranking, but I'm also not dead grip like Dan loaded.
Yeah.
I'll complain to the ref. Like, you really have to learn what you can get away with referees. Like, if somebody's doing this to you, like I've heard everybody complain like Greg Rader, what do I do with this? I'm like, this is what I do. If somebody's doing this, I'll go,
and the ref won't start.
I'll put my hand on the other side of his hand. Or you gotta say, ref, I don't want to match his side pressure. Ref, I don't want to match his back pressure. Ref, he's pulling back. You've gotta use the ref to your advantage.
It's hard
getting
to do that, honestly. Arguing with refs and everything like that.
But it's not about arguing with the referee. You don't have to argue. You just have to let them know, hey, I'm not going to match your pressure, right? Instead of this, you know, getting all mad, right? Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just like I like no load in the beginning because A, you're not wasting any hand. I don't want to waste zero energy until it's a couple seconds before the go. And also, it allows me. So come on up here for a second. So what it allows me to do is, let's just pretend he's a hooker, right? And you're gonna grip me low. So I'm gonna let you feel great. So right now, if you look at our hand position, I'm high. But what he doesn't realize is he's already lost his hand before the go, and he's about to be really uncomfortable a couple of seconds before the referee says go. Now, what I'll do is I bait him. So his hand, if you look at it, is completely closed and comfortable. It's not compromised at all. Everything is neutral, and I'm trying to make him feel as comfortable as possible. Because what I'm about to do is fuck this whole world up with this cheating ass bullshit move I'm about to do. But what it is, so I just want you to pull back slightly, right? So what I'll do, he feels comfortable, and all of a sudden, they haven't even said go yet, and his hand is open. So he just went from fully clamped, feeling good, to right before the go, I start moving my wrist down, cranking it into his hand, and exposing it. And you can do that with your hook, where my left, I'll do the same thing, where I'll pull back, make them feel real comfortable, then everything straight into the press. You do not want to be predictable. Do not let your opponent know where you're going. Like guys that like give me all this pressure and before they go, I'm just like, all right, dude, keep pulling. Like I'm gonna just wait for that guy to burn himself out. Loading high, pulling back, whatever he is. Like don't expose yourself. Like just be like unpredictable. And then, you know, just go into a match with a game plan that you know how this guy pulls. He's one-dimensional, and you got to have the courage to fight where he's not strong. And that's the fucking magic answer.
So is that WAO that you're also saying it, or just strictly almost IFA? Today it was kind of tough to, you know, prepare for that ready, not the rest of it. Close your hands, go. Right. You're feeling that. So is that more of an IFA, you know, WAF kind of?
Right, I mean, like, I'd say the majority of tournaments that I pull, I don't know about Texas, are not WAL rules. Unless Travis is in town, Bill Collins, most of the local tournaments I do are all WAF, get your grip, and then go. It is not easy to figure this type of pulling out because,
well, you never train it.
Yeah.
Like in practice and that, you don't do that. You know, you get up there when you're practice partner and you grab their hand and you get comfortable and then you start going. So you don't ever learn to do the closer hand. So but like you said, 99% of tournaments you'll run into are going to be WAF, get your own grip. And then if you don't, it's a rep script, it's a rep script.
You do that in your Texas. Yeah. Too many of those NAL rules that.
Because Travis is always on.
It's just about the like efficiency of the tournament. They just want it to be quick to get the matches over as fast as possible. But if you're not comfortable with it, like it's definitely different.
If you're not comfortable with it, practice it. Like that's how you get comfortable doing stuff you don't like to do, is just practice it until you're comfortable.
So, just something that Donovan is one of my training partners, and he's over there right hand. And Donovan will vouch for what I have to say. Americans, when we cook, we do not apply reverse hammer down pressure. It is something that it's like the fucking hidden secret of cooking that I don't understand why not more people do. And what it is it's your ability to turn your opponent's wrist over. Right? Come on up here. Since you were asking.
I'm kind of injured in my wrist.
No, we're just gonna. We're not gonna hit you. We'll hurt you.
You might.
So, if we're deep into a hook, the majority of people are just trying to beat each other with all side pressure, right? Now just give me a little bit. So the ability to turn, now let go of my hand.
Top of your head.
See how comfortable he is? His hand wrist position, he can apply pressure wherever he wants, okay? He can go outside, he can go inside. He's in a very neutral arm wrestling position. As soon as I apply reverse hammer pressure, that's just what I call it, or cranking, whatever you want to do, it's turning your opponent over onto their bicep. Watch. So as soon as I apply this pressure, okay, it's horrible. And what that does is your opponent goes from like, I'm in this, to all of a sudden, up straight on the bicep. So the whole point of it is to take your opponent's power where they're strong and turn it over by the slightest little hand position. Will put your opponent on their bicep. That's great. Do not fight your opponent in their power. It's like learn all the I don't know if secret's the right word, but do you crank down at all? Yeah. So
if I'm ever inside, I'm not inside a lot. If I am, absolutely. Yeah. Because it's the direction nobody's defending. So
Palm up is 100% bicep. Right. Palm this way, you still have your back, your tricep, your shoulder engaged, but palm up goes 100% bicep. Your arm is stronger than your bicep. It might not be stronger than your arm. So you can turn the palm up and just push down. You're pushing on just the bicep.
Does anybody feel like they get into like a war where they can't get out of it? Like you get stuck into a position where like you're holding on for dear life? When that happens, your body will not arm anymore. That was the one we just talked about. The other one is using your body and your tricep to push your opponent outside of their power. Okay? Want to show you real quick, Jordan or Chance? Great. If we are both equally strength arm wrestlers and it is right dead in the middle, okay? He's in a good position, I'm in a good position, shoulders are both behind their arms, okay, and you can't move them. And you're like me where you have about 30 seconds before the match is over. Like I don't have the ability to go more than 30 seconds. It's just not my anatomy. This position is when you have to start applying pressure through the body and pushing. Now, my object right now is to push my opponent outside of his shoulder. And what I do with that, I don't let the pressure up. What I do is I lock and I push my body outside of his shoulder, and then I come straight down into his bicep, right? So you're pushing your opponent instead of just sitting there and grinding it out. You have to change your angle because you're never gonna win a tournament if you just grind out every single match. You know what I'm saying? This stuff's really easy for me to tell you, but applying it on the table is a completely different thing. If any of you guys want to like feel one of our hands or understand like a move, like feel free to like come up and like grip up with any one of us, because like if you're confused about a move or you want to learn something new, like this would probably be a good time to figure it out, because yeah, it's really difficult to go home and be like, oh, well, yeah, he said this, and then if you don't actually get it, you're never going to be able to apply that same pressure that we're trying to teach you. So, anybody have any more questions? Go ahead.
I mean, I'm generally pretty new to arm wrestling. I would like to get your feedback on my pressures in general. That'd be cool.
Yeah, like after the seminar is over, anybody can.
After the seminar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you show me that book that you showed him?
Yeah, show him that. That's pretty dope, honestly.
He's talking about the, like, just that reverse.
The down pressure?
Yeah.
Okay, so make a fist and make a fist. So that's a really good position for you, right? Shoulders behind everything. So I'll show you first before I apply it. Make that fist. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to turn you over. Okay, there's no side pressure there. All I'm trying to do is turn my opponent's wrist over, because now the pressure is coming on the bicep, where here the pressure is sideways into all that power and through his shoulder. So focusing on angling your opponent and going straight down through the bicep. And this is what the pressure feels like, okay? So it's this. Okay? See what I'm saying? So so it's crank. Right? It's an unnatural.
It's really unnatural.
See how your arm is moving? Yeah. My arm's not moving. Watch my elbows planted. Go ahead. See how I drive? My wrist, if you let go of my hand, I'm doing this. It's a very unnatural feeling. Your arm's moving. Your arm's still moving. Just focus on the hand and wrist. Yes, right there. That's it. Oh. Right? Yeah. So don't give me much pressure to my elbow because it's going to explode. But feel it again, okay? Just give me a little bit.
Oh, okay.
See that?
Yeah.
So you get it now, right? So like how uncomfortable that makes you feel by just cranking somebody over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys are wearing supplement shirts, just wondering what works for you, what doesn't, what you like using.
Are we saying supplements or are we saying food or?
I was actually talking about.
I just take amino acids every day, and
what's that help?
Recovery. Yeah, just to recover from workouts.
No protein, no creatine, no nothing.
The supplements I take a lot of pills. I don't take a lot of powder. So it'd be like a good multivitamin is really important in my opinion. Fish oil for your tendons and your joints. I take like glucosamine, stuff like that, just joint stuff, and a good multivitamin. That's what's important to me. I'll drink protein shakes every once in a while, but it's not a staple form.
For me, it's the is it called placebo effect, where I try to trick my mind into thinking that I'm stronger than I actually am. I've never injected anything into me, but I have over the years, and like I take deer antler, right? And I don't necessarily think it's doing much, but what it's doing is it's telling my mind that I have. I don't take anything all year, and now I'm taking something. It's more about my mind and coming into an event with confidence more than anything else. I think arm wrestling, the amount of pressure we put on all of our tendons and joints basically glucosamine or any type of joint stuff, like I could take that shit till I'm blue in the face and my elbow will still be just as painful as it was when I started taking, you know what I mean? Like I just think that because of the damage we're doing on a regular basis to our joints and tendons, I think it's there's not like a specific supplement that I can take where I've noticed such a significant difference where the recovery, like it's like the pain outweighs the recovery. It's like I'm never catching up to the point where the pain completely goes away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then specifically, how many hours do you spend on wrist and hands?
So it depends on if it's an upcoming event or if it's there's different series of training for me. There's just the maintenance, which is off season, pulling a little bit on the table, doing all those conventional workouts just to stay strong. And then there's pre-competition, which if I have enough time, let's just say 3 months is when I start. Basically, I change. Just like the formula we're talking about with like the West Side Barbell, where now all of a sudden like I'm going towards more of a goal to get really strong than I am to maintain. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as like getting really strong to build the muscle, because a lot of us aren't where you are right now. Like, how many hours would it take you a day to like to build the wrist strength and the hand strength and the whatever strength you need to get to the point where you feel comfortable competing?
I mean, that's everybody's different. It's what you can put into training to make yourself as strong as you can.
Right.
Like there's no set amount of hours. Like he spent more time on his hand and wrist than I have. Right. But I mean, they're probably not that far off strength-wise. It's just everybody's a different person, and it's what you can put into it without injuring it to make it strong.
What exercise do you guys think in your career helped you advance the more, either cupping, pronation, back pressure, like that, when you were normal and they gave you the most gains?
Arm wrestling.
Arm wrestling in the table?
Yeah. See, I'm telling you, there's like polar opposites. Everybody's different. Talking about this earlier too. 95% of arm wrestlers cannot arm wrestle with their wrist backwards. There is a rare select few people that can apply pressure with their wrist back. But can anybody here arm wrestle like that? Like consistently and win matches? It's not a very comfortable, smart thing, or you know, it's just not something we train in either. Like I don't go to practice and pull like this, you know? So when you lose your hand is when you lose the match. It helps me get my opponent to my high hook, and pronation allows me to roll through my opponent that's coming towards me, or hooking, or whatever the case may be. Pronation also obviously helps with top rolling, right? So pronation will help you with the rear hammers. You're cranking down, but you're also lifting the wrist up at the same time. So yeah, we could talk about arm wrestling for fucking days as far as like what we do and what you guys should do, but like Donovan knows, man, we compete together and that shit is no easy task getting to the next level. It's just how much do you want, you know? It takes time. A lot of time.
And do you all deal with injuries? Because I know I do, but is that
I started when I was 2, so
I've never not been injured since I started.
since you started?
Everything's hurt for 18 years.
And how do you work around the injuries? Like, what's your best tip to work around injuries?
Get stronger so that your opponent can't apply as much pressure where you're there.
That's a tough one. That's why I do the gym. It's because these guys arm wrestle. I can't work through an injury because of my elbow, right? Where I can work out. I was in like a place where I had to quit. I had to retire or just do the gym. And I didn't have a choice. Where these guys, if they have the same injury as me, I don't know what they would do because they don't work out in the gym. Maybe they'd have to change their routine and they'd have to start working areas that they're not used to doing, you know what I mean? But like you said, pain is just a part of it, man, forever.
And Jordan, you were saying that you just focus on like blood flow?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do for that?
Band work, high reps, low weight, high reps, and bands.
Okay.
Just in every position you can imagine. 50, 100 reps over and over and over until blood's good. Let it sit, let it blood flow out, do it again.
You do it every day?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm best like in a low hook, but I can't ever get in that position, and I don't know if it's because I have a short lever. So I always find myself with my wrist either straight or somewhat back, because I feel like when I start, I have to get here first, and the other dude's already going. So once I get here, I'm here, and then the match just continues on right in that direction. So I don't know, is there anything that you say for like the guy that has maybe a short arm, like what's the best position to start in or something like that? I don't know.
I don't have a short arm. I've never had to worry about thinking about
my style.
Yeah.
I got the long arm issue. Yeah.
Did you guys feel like today was harder with a rest grip all day? Because I feel
I've arm wrestled like this a lot. So.
But his style,
yeah.
I feel like I could apply that, like a high hook, but if my hand is a little balled up, weirdly, like Mike McGraw balls his fucking hand up, and then fucking, you know, but they're setting your hand down, so it's kind of hard to get higher up on their hand when the hand's being pushed.
Here.
You know?
Yeah. That's the tricky part in that setup is you have to, when the referee lets go your hand, he says doesn't move, that doesn't mean that you have to close from right there. So when you close your thumb and the referee's doing this, and you're like, okay, now there's no rule that says close your hand doesn't mean that. As long as you're not tapping over your opponent's thumb. Just don't think that just because you're there, you start your match there. Exactly. So back to your question, Rustam Babayev. You ever heard of him before? Rustam Babayev. I think I'm pronouncing it right. He's like the best middleweight, 200-pound Ukrainian in the world. He has been since I started arm wrestling 20 years ago. He has these, yeah, he beat Todd Sill 6-0. He has the smallest hand and arm and like all full sport. It's tiny. It's very, very compact. He can top roll, he can hook, he can do anything. Don't use your levers as like an excuse as to why you're not able to perform, right? You just need to change what you're doing. Whether it be light grip and just focus on exploding. Like you have to find, everybody always, like, we'll go back to the bragging about the 100-pound curl thing. Tom Nelson, right? Training partner for a very, very long time. He always used to just do these, tons and tons of these with 100-pound dumbbells. I don't train that way because I don't want to train on the negative, on the opposite side of the table, the losing side of the table. I'm not arm wrestling to catch somebody, like you're saying. I'm arm wrestling to put them in an awkward position where they can't beat me, right? So for you, I would suggest like watching Jeff Hale videos or watching some of the guys like Rustam Babayev as far as how they're able to get to their power. Europeans are known for gripping with no hand pressure at all. Everything is light in the fingers, light in the arm, light in the fingers. They're all about fast and getting the position before they apply anything. We're Americans, we all grip really, really hard with tons of back pressure, tons of rotation. We're always trying to fight in the grip. Europeans don't do that. It's very neutral, no finger pressure. You don't even know where they're going. So for you, you need to just study some other guys with your same anatomy, what those guys are doing.
What was the Jeff? What was the
Jeff Hale.
Jeff Hale. Thank you.
What do you think of Jim? Tony Katowski.
Can we though?
What do you say?
Where are we? Tony Katowski is another guy
With a short arm that's able to get where he wants to go.
So you were talking about the West Side barbell. Do you guys all believe in like bench, deadlift, and squat?
No, I just use the theory of the pyramid as far as like, depending on my elbow, I'll just give you like a rundown on like just a real quick rundown. I don't need to talk about it too long, but I have a chain with a rubber band in my car for isometrics because that's the most boring thing in the world. And when I'm in my car, it's the only time where I give a fuck about doing it, right? Or I have a chain with a rubber band and I'll hold it at 60% effort for 30 to 60 seconds on multiple different areas. I'll do a post, I'll do a hook, I'll do some back pressure, multiple different angles, right? Then I'll do a max day, a volume day, and a speed day, right? Where you're incorporating these things. And you know about West, how you add weight, right, every week, and then you keep track. It's all about keeping track of your gains, because you're never gonna, if you just continue doing the same bench, the same wrist curl, the same bicep curl, you're never gonna push past that plateau unless you're shocking your nervous system on a regular fucking basis, right? Or, and these guys are advanced, like, if you're arm wrestling somebody that's beneath you, grab a rubber band. If you guys have seen some of the guys in New York do it, where they wrap it around their arm, right? And get the pressure that you need to feel to get stronger. Because you beating everybody at practice and then coming to here and getting worked, you're just like, man, I beat everybody at practice, nobody can touch me, and those dudes are like, how are they getting there? They're getting there because of what I'm talking about.
So you just believe in like pulling better dudes, or like pushing yourself more each week or every 2 weeks?
Progressive overload.
I'm more of a gym guy.
So for me, I don't really have many people stronger than me in my area to pull with. So I'm always focusing on working from positions I'm uncomfortable in and getting stronger in other areas. I can sit there and top roll everyone in Ford all day long, but I need to work different angles so I can be a more well-rounded arm wrestler. So that's what I work on.
And what you were saying that in the gym, like, what do you do? Like bench, squat, like?
No, I don't squat. I don't really
stick to arm wrestling?
No. In the gym, I'm doing just general lifting. So like lat pull downs or bench press or curls or whatever. Nothing arm wrestling specific necessarily. Because I believe general strength is really all I need if I can apply it properly. If you don't know how to apply it, general strength's not going to do anything for you though. So specific training can get you used to the movements.
Your dad was a world-class powerlifter, right, or something?
Yeah,
like that?
he was a bench presser.
So did he tell you some of this stuff, I guess, or was it
not necessarily? He told me stuff to get my bench stronger, but I don't know if any of it applied directly to arm wrestling.
Who's your dad?
Dan Shaw. He competed in WNBA.
Sounds very familiar.
But I have a question. How many people in here think that age and when you start has anything to do with how strong you are today? Right?
I hope not.
No, Norm DeVio, 80 years old now, kicking butt.
Right? Because if you start at 60, I think it doesn't matter, right?
If you started before you stopped growing, I think you have one step above everybody else. Right? I started arm wrestling every day of my life at 16 years old. Every one of my friends before we even knew the sport existed. I can't even believe nobody broke their arm. Like honestly, like we were arm wrestling on garbage cans, tailgates, picnic tables, every day of our life till our arms couldn't move. Right? So what I think is, it's not too late to get strong, but it definitely helps when you are started at least working out at a younger age while your body was still growing, right? So to form that ability. You started, what, 16 years old? So Chance is 22 now. He's very young, and he's one of the elite guys in his weight class, and he's 22 years old. So what does that kind of tell you, right? Guys that have been powerlifting their whole lives that want to get involved in arm wrestling at 35 years old, they're really gym strong, but they have a tough time incorporating it into the table because it's hard for them, whether it be old habits, being stubborn, or just them not really understanding how to apply the power that they have gotten from working out their whole lives to the table. And that's a very common question I get a lot by big dudes is, I don't get it. Like, I'm so strong. I have a 500-pound bench. I have an X amount of squat, yada, yada, yada. I can curl this amount of weight, but I suck, right? And like, my only answer is like, you just need to get stronger at arm wrestling, like on the fucking table. And there is no easy answer. There is no like, go ahead.
I'm disagreeing with you.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just the unfortunate truth and reality that if you didn't start when you were young, you are fighting a fucking uphill battle, an uphill battle based on the time and when you started. Because I didn't actually start competing until I was 18 or training with anybody that knew anything until I was 22. Now, can you imagine, like, if I had started at 13 or 14 years old or 16 and had the correct training, by the time I was 22, I might have been on a different level, right? So I don't really have a point to all of that.
Your point is I just paid $100 to learn I'm too old for this shit.
Oh, but I was going to say, Bob Hutchins is a prime example. He started at 35 years old, and he is the best mother effer on the planet. He's 50. Like, it's never too late to get better at arm wrestling. Like, don't use like the ages and excuses to why you can't see games or why you can't get better, you know? Any other questions or anything else specific you guys want to talk about?
What's up, guys? Do you ever plan to rematch Sam Harris again? I blocked him from Facebook. As Surf said, too, I blocked him too.
I'd love to pull Sam again. I beat him a year prior, and then he came back, made some adjustments, and I cried and lost, right? I think it's a lot closer than it was that day, and I'd love a rematch. But
Does Sam have any weaknesses?
Sam?
Everybody has. Everyone. I just want to know what you think
his hand, to me, the first time we pulled, when I beat him 3-2, I took his hand every match, and he tried to punk me round one, and then he just I just ripped right through his hand and pinned him. My elbow fouled, but like, he was a little overconfident that day, like I was the second time we pulled. But to me, Tony kind of exposed Sam's weakness, which was in his hand. Tony's also a 195-pound guy cutting to 165, so that's kind of hard to compare the two athletes. But Sam is a phenomenal arm wrestler. I mean, there's not much else, not much negative stuff I can say about him. Huh?
He looks so well rounded whenever I see him pull. He's just got so many tools.
Yeah.
That's Storm and Paul.